Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another great spotlight session. Today, I have Scott Leifer of Hawkeye Services, who does everything you can think of. But he does specialize, I would say, in septic and sewer line inspections and like a bunch of other cool stuff that he does. But I'll let him talk about everything he does. I don't want to give away too much.
No worries.
Thanks for coming, Scott. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, Lawrence. Appreciate it. All right. Good morning, everybody. How many people we got on today?
We
Few?
have 6 people on so far,
All right. I'll
but
take it.
Morning.
Good morning. All right. So I'm not much of a Zoomer. I'm trying to figure this out as I go. But I'll do the best I can. Um, Hey, Joe. So good morning. My name is Scott Leifer. I am the owner of Hawkeye Services. We do oil tank scans. We do sewer line inspections. We do radon testing. Um, at the end of the day, that's our wheelhouse. We've been doing sewer line inspections for about 6 years at this point. And as probably most of you can attest, it's become a big ticket item for real estate transactions. So I'm trying to preach to everybody how important it is, because at the end of the day, it's a big issue. Um, Oil tank scans I've been doing for a long time. I'll kind of start a quick intro. I've been in the oil tank industry for 25 years. So it's been a long time. So I was on the oil tank removal and the cleanup end of the business for a long time, working for other people. And about 10 years ago, I started Hawkeye Services, just doing tank scans. I've been doing oil tank sweeps for myself for a long time. And then, like I said, about 6 years ago, we expanded into the sewer line inspection business as well. Um, so, both of those things I know backwards and forwards. I can't really speak to much else but that's what I'm an expert in. With oil tank scans, I'm sure you guys are used to that process and the importance of it. And at this point, I can imagine you're used to hearing, "Oh, there were 3 tank scans done on this property. I don't see why they need to do another one." Do
Mhm.
another one. Those other tank sweeps do not protect your client. I just had a conversation with a new buyer today. They're buying a new build, knockdown rebuild. The builder provided a tank scan certificate, and I basically explained to them that that does not protect you. If a tank is ever found on that property, you have no recourse. There's nobody to go after. So what you want to do is do your own sweep. It's well worth the few $100, peace of mind, and you want to make sure that you're protected. Um, I I'm not like all the companies when it comes to oil tank scans. I generally do the whole lot unless it's more than an acre. And then I do a 50-foot radius. So most companies just do a 30-foot radius around the home. And additionally, I also guarantee my sweeps. So if you're using a tank scan company, you want to make sure they're basically doing both of those things, whether it's me or anybody else. The importance is, you want to protect your clients and you want to make sure that there's protection down the line. Thankfully, right now, my son is working with me for the summer. He's in college, so it's not like I'm going to be out of business in 20 years when I retire. Maybe we'll see if that ever happens. But there is a succession plan in place, so Hawkeye will continue, and there will be, if obviously if I ever do miss a tank, I guarantee it. I remove the tank at my cost. That's my guarantee, and I stand behind it. I unfortunately have to do it a couple times over the years, and it's the nature of the beast. Nobody's perfect. People miss
Mhm.
stuff, and I stand by my work. So oil tank scans are really important, and I can't stress it enough. I don't care how much paperwork is in place. Oh, they removed a tank. Here's a permit. Here's the necessary no further action letter, or whatever it may be. At the end of the day, do another one. Protect your clients. Have them be protected. Um, I know a lot of attorneys that won't even represent clients that without doing a tank scan. With all that said, I'm really going to concentrate more on sewer line inspections because you all know tank sweeps. It's been around for a long time. Sewer lines are kind of the new thing. And I know for realtors, you're like, oh, great, another thing that we have to deal with in a transaction. Nobody wants more inspection issues that could come up and potentially impact the deal and just be another negotiating point in the process.
Mhm.
I understand that. At the end of the day, a new sewer line is $15,000 to $20,000. It's not a small ticket item if you have to replace the whole
Oh,
thing. Yeah, it's for real. So I'm very, very, I can't stress it enough how important it is to make sure your client's doing. And I don't care if it's a brand new house. It doesn't mean that it was installed properly. It doesn't mean that maybe they knocked down a house and just tied into the old sewer line, which I see all the time. And it doesn't mean that there aren't issues there. I mean, I do 5, 6 year old construction all the time where there's major root intrusions into the line. There's disconnected joints at the wall. There's bellies in the line, which are low spots. And I'll go into that in a minute. But these are the issues that I find regularly. So even though it's a newer house, newer construction, at the end of the day, it's an important inspection. And again, I'm just here to inform. I'm not pitching my services specifically. You can use whomever you'd like, but it's important to do a sewer line inspection.
Mm,
So when it comes to sewer lines, there's a lot to discuss. There's different type of pipe materials. So there's cast iron lines, which I'm sure you're probably somewhat familiar with. There's clay pipe. All right. There's newer plastic pipes, PVC, ABS, SDR. There's different types of materials there. Um, there's transite, which is a concrete pipe material. So there's a lot of different materials. Every different type of material has its positives and negatives. All right.
mm,
So the newer pipes all primarily are plastics. All right. So probably 80s and on, you're looking at ABS, which is the black plastic pipe, PVC, which is the white plastic pipe, SDR, which is another type of white plastic. These are the common materials you see regularly now. So the issues with those potentially are they can belly. So a belly, if you can imagine, I don't know if you can see, your line's pitched like this. It should have a pitch. Everything should be flowing away from your home. Something pushes it up and creates kind of a dip or a belly in the line. All right. A belly is a potential issue because it can hold debris and ultimately hit a critical mass of debris and then as a result cause a backup. All right.
mm,
And nobody wants to deal with a sewer backup. I can assure you that is not fun for anybody unless you're talking to a ServPro representative. They might love it. But believe me, the homeowner will not enjoy dealing with that. Um, so a belly is now that's a sliding scale. Okay. Uh, a couple foot belly, further down the line, I have no concerns about it. If it's in plastic, it's far less of an issue than if it's in cast iron. Um, so cast iron, another type of very common pipe material, corrodes, scales, and tends to get grabby. Will hold on to stuff. All right.
mm,
So at the end of the day, in cast iron lines, what I see a lot of the time is a lot of buildup, a lot of grease buildup, flushable wipes. Um, so there's kind of a few ground rules that I tell everybody when it comes to sewer lines, particularly with cast iron lines. All right. Grease, cooking oils, all that stuff should go in the garbage, not down the drain. And this is for you guys too when you're at home.
mm,
Um, Flushable wipes are not flushable. People love them, but no bueno, particularly for cast iron lines. They're going to get caught. You're going to have basically another one, another one, another one. Eventually, it's going to be a huge wipe ball, and things aren't getting through. All right. So they're more cloth than they are paper, and it's a big issue. Plumbers love them because it gets them a lot of work,
mm,
but at the end of the day, flushable wipes are not flushable. Um, the other stuff I tell people not to put down sewer lines all the time are floss, Q-tips, feminine products. These are things that should go in the garbage. All right.
mm,
The floss one's a big one because especially with cast iron, it's going to get caught on one side of that jagged pipe on the inside, swing around, get caught on the other. Then you have a clothesline through the middle of your sewer line. And things are getting caught. All right.
mm.
So don't flush your floss. Pretty simple. All right. These are listen. Did I ever expect to be giving this conversation? No, absolutely not. How I got into store lines, who knows? But at the end of the day, this is what I do now. So, I'm trying to impart my wisdom.
What would you say is well, I guess it's very important nowadays to do a sewer line inspection, but is there like a certain amount of, or a certain year of home, particularly, that you would say, yes, they definitely need a sewer line inspection?
Well, you know, kind of going back to what I said right off the bat, it doesn't matter the year. It's important to
Mm,
do. Older homes, newer homes. So to kind of go down the list, because you're right. Different types of age of homes have different type of pipe materials, and that does play a role. All right.
mm,
So the newer plastics are better in the fact that they don't hold stuff like cast iron would. But what will happen with newer plastics is you'll get bellies in the line. You'll get points where they forgot to glue a joint and the joint disconnects. I mean, I've done jobs where right when you go out the foundation wall of the house, the line's disconnected and all the sewage is pouring out the front wall of the house. And it's been doing that for who knows how long.
mm.
That's obviously a major issue. Or like 10 feet down into the yard, same deal. It's just, the grass is really lush there. It's that sort of thing. So you got to, so that's the issue with that. Older lines. So older lines, you'll have like clay. So clay is like a terracotta pipe.
Mm,
So the issue with clay is there's a lot of joints. There's joints every 2 feet. Okay. And as a result of that, um, so the joints are generally the issue where the point where you could have issues in a line. All right. So
mhm,
with clay, at the end of the day, you'll get roots a lot. All right. So they're fitted joints, they're not glued or anything like that. And roots find their way in. And once they're in, they are as happy as can be. Once roots are in a sewer line, it's continuous source of nutrient rich water. And they are as happy as can be. And then you have to do what's called a hydrojetting to shear them off, clear them out of there. And then it's a maintenance thing. You got to continue doing that for every 2 years, roughly, because they're going to keep growing and you got to shear them back out of there.
mm,
There's also another type of pipe material that I see, and this is a very kind of niche material. I don't see it very often, but when I see it, it's an automatic, has to be replaced material. It's called Orangeburg pipe. If you're not familiar and never heard this term, which most people haven't, if you can imagine a roll of tar paper with the center hollowed out, that is Orangeburg pipe. You can imagine it does not last very long and lasts very well. What'll happen is it'll delaminate, it'll start bubbling, start becoming kind of oval shaped, and then one day it'll just collapse. And that's a really bad day. So
mm,
anytime it's observed in an inspection, it calls for replacement, bottom line. Um, that was put in the ground in kind of the 50s, 60s, early 70s, roughly. All right. So when cast iron, which was the common material before that, kind of got shifted to be utilized in the war effort in the 40s, they found another material, and that was Orangeburg. It was made in Orangeburg, New York. And it's basically, it's at its end of life. All right. I see it
mm,
most often, regularly in Woodbridge, Colonia, Edison, a little bit of Highland Park, those areas. Okay.
mm,
And then periodically elsewhere, but those are the kind of the where I see it most often. What else? There's clay, cast iron, the plastics, Orangeburg. I think I touched on most of the type of materials. So the biggest issues that I see with sewer lines are, as I mentioned earlier, the bellies in the line, root intrusions, which is another issue, disconnected or offset joints. So offset joints aren't so bad so long as you can imagine your it's hard to kind of show without being in person. But if your pipe is, like this and it shifts a little bit, and at the end of the day, it's going to create kind of a bump or in the line where things are trying to get over. It's not so bad until it gets, to a point where things aren't passing over it and getting through and getting to the main city main.
mm,
So that's one material, and then obviously the other issue is totally disconnected joints where things aren't staying on the line and it's pouring out into the yard underground. So sewer line repair is expensive. If you have to replace the whole line, it's very expensive, and you want to make sure that you're protecting your clients. What we do, kind of explain the process. We open up the clean out. So a clean out is an access port into the sewer line, generally observed in the basement, sometimes outside the foundation, sometimes in crawl spaces, unfortunately. And we open that up. We install a camera into the line, and we're basically running the camera from the house to where it connects to the city main. All right. Sometimes it's 20 feet, sometimes it's 200 feet. It all depends on the house, how far it is, how the distance. All right. So we're basically looking at the integrity of the line as we move through it. identifying the different type materials because it does change as you go, particularly when you hit the street a lot of times. So you're responsible, in theory, for your sewer line from your house to where it hits the curb. From there, once it's in the street, it's the municipality's issue. With that said, getting the township to do something about it, good luck. Unless you happen to know the mayor, that's not happening. You know, they're not. The town is not going to come out and say, "Oh, you have an issue with your line that's in the street. We'll come out and repair it." They're not. It's gonna still be your responsibility. So, we're basically doing the inspection. We're identifying the type materials. We're determining what the issues potentially are, and we're giving recommendations based on that. So that could be what's
Mm.
called a hydrojetting. Hydrojetting is a power washing of the sewer line. I recommend it quite often with cast iron lines because cast iron, like I said, will hold on to stuff a lot more than other materials. And it basically will push all that material, knock it all down, push it all out to the city main, and it's like getting a new sewer line. Once you do it and you stick to those golden rules I explained earlier, you should never have to do it again. All right. Sometimes it calls for replacement. Sometimes it calls for spot repairs, depending on what you see. A lot of times it's fine and there's no issues at all. And that's always, when I don't, and let me kind of preface this by saying personally, we don't do any repair work. We don't do any cleaning work. We don't do anything beyond the actual inspection work. So we're not looking for issues. We hope not to find anything. I'm always happy to give good news. Now, it's not always the case, but at the end of the day, that's kind of my perspective on this.
Mm.
Um, Covered a lot of stuff. Any questions so far?
I have a question. So what would be something that we as agents, like if we're like in a house or we're showing or something like that, or we're getting ready to list a home, is there any indications that there could be problems with their sewer line?
Good question. Uh, Not always, but say slow drains. That is, and a lot of times a slow drain can be localized to one drain. So, one drain that's
Mm.
used regularly, it doesn't drain well. Maybe it's, a bunch of hair in there or something like that. But if all the drains in the house are slowly draining, that is definitely a sign that there may be an issue with the line out to the main.
Mm.
Um, Weird smells, sewage smell. That's definitely you got to wonder what's going on.
Mm.
These are and then like I said, if you kind of can identify kind of where the line's going out and you see an area of grass that's just growing crazy, that's also a potential indication that there may be a leak in the line out there. So
Yeah,
that's all
that's
I can
that's
really say.
actually a funny thing to notice. I guess the lush green in like someone's yard or something like that, where it's more than others. I guess that would be a clear indication.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
I see Lawrence using the toilet in every house he shows. That's what I see.
I gotta
Oh,
make
this
sure
is
they
good.
work. I gotta,
This is good. This one's good. Let me go
yeah,
upstairs, try that one out,
quality
so
control.
yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
listen, I understand. I'm getting to that age myself, so I can't speak against that.
Scott, what's the size of the pipe? Is this standard like 6 inch pipe that goes out?
So
Does it vary from PVC to iron or cast iron?
right. So the standard pipe length for homeowners is 4 inch pipe.
Okay.
All right.
Mm.
And yeah, it will change. So I mean, I'll do lines where I go out and it's cast iron through the wall, and then it changes to I don't know, transite. Transite is a concrete pipe material. It's actually concrete with asbestos mixed into it because we're in New Jersey. Then it changes to PVC for a section. Then it changes back to transite. Then in the street it goes to clay. I mean, you'll see changes throughout, but usually it's four. Sometimes you'll see 3 inch pipe. That's kind of undersized for residential. Yeah, 4 inches is the standard.
Okay. Do you ever see work that could be just cleaned out, or do you find that a majority of it is just a repair?
Oh no, I call for cleanings regularly.
Okay.
It's rare to. I don't see repair work every day, or
Okay.
replacement work certainly not. But yeah, I mean, like for example, yesterday I did 3 sewer line inspections. Two were fine, and one needed a cleaning. One was totally fine, no issues at all. And the third, I was in Princeton. It was a large property, and I was only able to get to 173 feet, where I hit a total blockage with roots. I mean, nothing was getting through. My camera couldn't advance through it. It was just a total blockage. And so what'll happen in a case like that is in my camera head, I have a sonde. It's basically, it throws off a signal. So I press a button on my monitor, throws off a signal. I get my detector and I figure it out exactly where I'm at. And we chase the signal out to the front yard, and there was a massive tree in the front yard. And
Mm.
the client, the buyer, obviously didn't want to have to remove that tree, so he was asking for recommendations. And I said, listen, the only other thing that I can think of is redirect the line if you want to keep the tree, because this is going to be a continuous issue for you. If you jet those roots out, great, but you're gonna have to be doing this every couple of years. So
Mm.
as a permanent fix, what you want to do is redirect the line around that tree and bring it back to where it connects to the main. I think that's what he's going to request. We'll see how that goes. That's what he's going to request from the seller. So
Mm.
But
yeah,
you don't do the clean out. You hire someone else, or you do the clean out.
I do not. No, I don't do any additional work.
Okay, so
For
you
hydrojetting
have.
work, there's one guy I recommend. Um, I will say this, and I don't know if I'm going to be stepping on any toes here. I don't know relationships, but never use Roto Rooter for anything. I'm just going to throw that blanket statement out there.
You're not the
Um,
first person I heard say that. Like, as far as
good.
from an inspection side of things, I've heard a plumber tell me that. I've heard an inspector tell me that. You've told me that. I've heard my other septic, New Jersey septic, the guy you there, he says the same thing. Like, I don't, what is it with them?
It's so they're a chain company. There's a lot of them, and I don't know what their company culture is, but at the end of the day, I've never ever seen them do first. I just don't trust them, honestly. I don't know what else to say. I did a job. It was in Belmead. No, it was in Paulsboro. I'm sorry, Paulsboro, and hit a total root intrusion. This is like a 6-year-old house. Total root intrusion by a tree. Couldn't get past it. It was a major issue. The homeowner hired Roto-Rooter to come out and repair that section of lot. My client's realtor, who I was working with, recommended that after that was done, to have the reinspection done, because they
Mhm.
didn't, they just had a weird feeling. They said, you know what, we wanted to reinspect the line just to make sure. I come out to reinspect the line. They didn't do anything, and they charged them $15,000 to replace the line. They didn't do a
Whoa.
damn thing. Crazy. So, we called them out, and then they came back and actually did the repair work. But who does that? So, I mean, I didn't trust them
Wow.
before that, but after that, no
Yeah.
way. Yeah, so that's just one story. Then also, they're kind of like vampires. Once you let them into your house, they're not leaving. So they're going to come in and be like, "Oh, I smell mold," or there's other issues. So they're going to keep finding other stuff to expand their bill. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe I'm talking out of school here, but at the end of the day, it's just a good advice to you guys. Just be careful with them. That's all.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
I'll
yeah,
heed
I
that
don't.
advice because, like I said, you're not the first person to say that I've
Yeah,
heard. Like, tell me
right.
that. Like, hey, no, yeah, we don't use those guys. Don't use these guys because, yeah, makes
Yep,
sense. Makes sense.
absolutely.
Anyone else have questions, comments, concerns?
I do have not a concern, a question though. This is going back to tank sweeps. Um, Scott, there's the typical tank sweep. You're walking around with a little gizmo and all, but there's a more advanced tank sweep. It's got letters to it. I don't know how is that different than a normal tank sweep, and what should someone order from a tank sweep standpoint?
Oh, like a
Right.
GFR.
Or
Yep.
is that what it is?
Yeah, see, I
Like
know stuff.
ground penetrating. Is it ground penetrating radar or something like that, or GPR?
That's exactly right. You got it.
Okay.
Yep. So I use a magnetometer or a metal detector for all my tank sweeps. At the end of the day, I've been using this equipment for 25 years. It talks to me. I know what it's saying. I trust it inherently. So there's other equipment called ground penetrating radar, GPR. Okay, and basically, for me, how I look at it, it's the next step. All right. So say I scan a property. I get a reading. Okay, so I get a hit that's right size potentially to be an oil tank. At that point, there's two things you can do. All right, you can either do an exploratory dig, all right, where you dig down and see what it is, or you can utilize ground penetrating radar to determine if, in fact, it's a tank or something else. So, ground penetrating radar is a piece of equipment that looks like a lawnmower. They roll it over the suspect area. It bounces a signal down through the ground, comes back, shows an image on a screen. To you and I, it's a bunch of wavy lines. But to the technician, it basically they're looking for something that has that in the curvature of the top of a tank. Okay, so that images like a tank would. I find it to be a very effective piece of equipment. I don't generally think it's effective for a full property scan. It's more for a secondary opinion based on a finding. Usually the guys that have the ground penetrating radar, if they're hired to do a tank scan, they're first doing it with the metal detector, and then they bring out the ground penetrating radar if they need to. It's not necessary in all applications. So I don't always recommend it as well when it comes to properties. I usually like a dig because then there's nothing left to question. You can see it firsthand. You can see if there's an issue. You can see if it's a tank or not. You can see if it's a car. I mean, I found a lot of weird stuff in the
That
ground.
I was gonna say that actually happened to me in a house I sold in Branchburg, where the lady, she was like, "There's no oil tank. Like, there's never been an oil tank here." But when he did, like, I'm like, "Well, it's good to just sweep just to make sure. Like, you really don't know." And
Right.
he did the sweep, and it came back, and he was like, "Yeah, I think you have a tank in your yard." And when they actually went and did the GPR and all that, they were like, "No, I think it's a car." It was literally a car in like buried in her backyard.
Crazy, right?
It was like an old Buick or something. Yeah, it was
It's
like
insane,
the car from like the 70s or something like that. I don't even like
right?
who buries a car? Like what?
I I found a few over the years. I remember the first time I found one is in Martinsville, not too far from there, and they actually hired a friend of mine who was a landscaper to dig it and see what it was. So he comes out, he digs it up, and he shoots me a video of him pulling this old Volvo out of the ground. And I said to him, I was like, Marvin, whatever you do, do not pop that
The
trunk. Get it
trunk,
to a
right?
scrapyard.
I said the
This is
same
New
thing.
Jersey. You don't want to know what's in there.
Right.
So you got to be careful.
Right.
um,
You, you,
but
so,
yeah,
so
so I mean, ground penetrating radar, as far as I'm concerned, definitely has a good application. So if I get a hit and it's under a driveway or it's under a patio or a finished area that you don't want to dig up, that's when GPR is fantastic. It can tell you yes or
Mm.
no, and at the end of the day, you're not digging up a finished area that you have to then restore. Perfect application for that.
but it's still not perfect. I mean, what I'm saying is that I've had in the past a couple, okay, digs, and they're not cheap to get a contractor out with a backhoe to dig. You're talking a couple $1,000s. So
Right.
we've had digs where we're pulling up rebar. Okay,
Right.
great. So we're like, dang it, what a waste of money that was. We like to Lawrence, we've pulled up a tractor one time. So I mean, but it's very frustrating for someone that's spending the money to waste $2,000. I had one in Montgomery that's set to close next week, and there was nothing there but rebar. Did the dig, had the township, had the no further action letter, everything else. Buyer still requested a dig. My seller spent the money for the dig, and guess what? ADS came in and nothing there, no tank there, and they're like, "Oh, that was a waste. Here's some rebar." And I felt like that was a waste of money on my seller's part to find
Mm.
this out. So, but it's just frustrating that way. But GPR is not guaranteed to say, okay, it's definitely not a tank, though.
You know, it depends who you use, obviously. So there is a company I recommend regularly for ground penetrating radar work that does guarantee their work. Um, but you also so for example, I get a hit in the backyard, and I pretty sure it's a septic tank. Okay, GPR is not going to tell you. It's going to image like a tank, so it's not going to tell you if
Mm.
it's an oil tank or a septic tank. That's when you really have to do a dig. So it's all very circumstantial, and nothing's perfect. You're right. And I know it's frustrating for sellers, certainly, digging up their property, paying the extra money, um, at the end of the day, I guess it's hard to say this, but I guess they should be happy it's not an oil tank. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the bottom line, because an oil tank has a whole other set of issues that they would have to
Right.
potentially be dealing with after that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I understand the frustration, but at least they're not dealing with the potential cleanup and all that good stuff.
Right. Okay. Yeah, good. Good. Thank you.
That makes sense. When it comes to radon testing, do
Hmm.
you think there's like a certain amount of time where you should test your ground for radon, or just, not think about it at all kind of situation. Or if there's never been anything there, you just kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, in Jersey, it's radon's so weird. One house will have high radon, the next house, the neighbor will have low radon level. It's just one of those weird fluky things.
Right.
And it's also fluctuating. So I mean, one day it could be one level, another day it could be another. Most people will do a radon test when they buy their house and never think about it again. And I don't know if that's really a question you're asking. Should you ever have to do another one? I mean, I do generally recommend it's a couple $100 every
Mm-hmm.
5 years or so. Do another radon test, see if the levels are low. If you have a radon fan in place or radon, a system in place,
Mm-hmm.
you want to regularly check that equipment. You want to make sure that it's actually operating. There's a what's called a manometer on the actual pipe. It's a U on the pipe, and you want to make sure it's offset. That means that it's drawing suction, and it's pulling the air out. If it's level, it's not working. Most people don't know that. So at the end of the day, radon's one of those things. And if you're down in the basement all the time and you have kids down in the basement or whatever it may be, you want to make sure that you're not breathing in that radon gas. Yeah.
So that's an interesting point you just brought up, because I had a client say to me that they didn't want to do radon testing because it wasn't like they were, having a garden in the backyard. Right.
Yeah,
It's
that
like
is.
I'm not eating off the soil, so it doesn't matter what's in there. So that's a great point that you just brought up about radon gas. See,
Yeah.
that's something I didn't think about either.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. So
Mm,
radon gas is invisible. You can't smell it, you can't see it, what have you, and it's ever present. And it's going to be outside, it's going to be inside, but what happens is it both culminates. It adds up in the lower structure of a home. So that's
mm,
why the levels are so high. Outside, it's probably always around, but it's just dispersed. So it's not an issue.
right.
But when it culminates and kind of at the end of the day is in a basement and reaches a high level, that's when it's a concern. It's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States, so it's a big thing. Oh yeah,
Mm.
it's for real. Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. So listen, at the end of the day, every home inspector does a radon test, as they should. It's an important thing to do. And if the levels are below or above 4, which is kind of the magic number, then you have to do a fan. You have to install a system. It's basically a PVC pipe that goes into the floor with a fan on it, pulls the radon gas out to above the roof line,
Mm,
and it brings it all below the level. Fantastic. But you want to make sure that first and foremost that if you have a system that is working, and then secondly that you retest periodically, just to make sure that the levels haven't changed or shifted or they're high again. I mean, you do some of these houses in Princeton and Montgomery and Highbridge, and levels are in the hundreds. It's insane. Oh yeah.
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
The
mean,
the
you'll have to. Sometimes there's like 3, 4 different points in a basement where they're sucking the radon gas out from underneath the slab, and so that way you make sure you get it to below the standard. And sometimes really hard to get it to below 4 because the levels are so high.
It's got that measurement on the radon pipe itself, the U that you talked about.
Hmm.
That's only if that's an active system with a fan, correct? If it's a passive system, no
Yes,
fan, there's no U on
correct.
there. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
that's also newer construction.
Mm.
Mm,
Newer construction has to have a stub up, basically an inactive radon pipe that comes out of the slab that's built into the home,
mm,
and so that's the best because you can just throw a fan on it and then it'll draw the level, and then you're usually fine.
mm.
But that's older construction doesn't have that. You have to actually physically do all that work.
What's your take on since we're on radon, the meter measurement or way of measuring as opposed to the canisters? I mean, the meter is much more accurate, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so it's called CRM, continuous radon monitors, and they're electronic monitors. They're plugged in, and you can't tamper with them as much. You could tell if, like, say somebody opens a window, it'll monitor that, which is fantastic because everybody
Mm.
tries to cheat the radon test. Throw a pot over top of it, whatever it is. open a window, and but at the end of the day, yes, CRMs are great. I wish more home inspectors use them. I don't do a ton of testing, honestly. I do testing, but I primarily I got my radon license to pick up radon tests for home inspectors, and so I do that quite a bit. And I see a lot of these CRMs in use now, and I'm really happy to see it because I prefer those.
Hmm. Makes
Thank
sense.
you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. But especially thing about radon gas, I would have never thought about that one.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything like that? You guys have been quiet today, which is
It's a hot Friday.
which is rare.
It's a hot Friday.
I'm
It's a hot
riveting. What can I
Friday.
tell you?
Yeah. I think you gave us the best information. That's why it's no really questions. You gave us
Sure.
everything we needed.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I don't have any more questions. I think this was really good. I definitely learned a lot. I'm going to definitely influence my clients to definitely get sewer line inspections more often, thinking about it that way since all the points that you brought up. Um, so yeah, guys, I put Scott's information in the chat. You guys can hang on to that, his phone number and his email address. Feel free to give him a call, ask him questions, pick his brain. If you hear his voicemail, he will not answer his phone during a sewer line inspection, okay? For obvious reasons. And he says that in his voicemail. For obvious reasons, I'm not touching my phone because I'm doing a sewer line inspection. And I could not agree with him more.
Thank you. Listen, it is gross, honestly.
I couldn't agree with him more. I would not touch my phone, my car, my keys, my wallet, my anything. So
Nothing.
I get it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, so again, I do definitely thank you for coming on today and taking your time out to give us some of your great information. And I look forward to having you back on somewhere around the winter so we can see what the difference is there with sewer line inspections and stuff. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate it. Thanks for
No
having me.
Thank
problem.
you,
All right,
Scott.
guys,
Yep.
you have a great and cool Friday and weekend. Good luck with
Thanks.
that anyway.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Bye.